Hi there. All right, so today we're working on Word Chapter 6, Cumulative Assessment called Event. And at this point, you have already looked at a document. You've already looked at creating fields. You've looked at protecting your document. So what we're going to be looking at today is, or concentrating on, I should say, is using macros in a document. So we're going to be looking at steps 11 through 13, and I'm assuming that you completed most of the steps by now, right? So you're on step 11. And in steps 11 through 13, we're working exclusively with macros. So macros basically allow you to make formatting an easy and automatic task. You record the steps you took in the formatting of the document, and then when you need to format another part of the document using the same exact formatting, you apply the macro instead. It reduces the time and the steps you have to take when you're applying the same exact formatting throughout your document. Okay, so we're looking at step number 11. And step number 11 asks you to select the word vendor. So I found the word vendor here in my document, and I've got the word vendor there. And it asks me to record a macro and to title that macro format text. Okay, so we know that macros can be done in the developer tab. So hopefully you've got your developer tab already opened up and set, ready to go. So I click on my developer tab, and here on the left-hand side here, I've got in my code group, the option to record a macro, which is exactly what I'm going to do right now. Now, in the case of step number 11, we're not going to record it as a button or as a keyboard shortcut. Instead, we're just going to record what we actually do on our screen. And we are naming this macro format text. And don't forget to put in the underscore, right? So your macro has no missing characters in it. All right, and then the step also asks us to make sure that the macro is stored in the current document. So where it says store macro in, I don't want it to be in all documents. I want it instead to just be in the document that I'm currently working in. So I go ahead and click on the file name that I'm currently working in. All right, once that's done, I'm going to go ahead and click on OK. And when I do that, you'll notice that our little recorder comes on the screen, right? That's an old cassette tape that is supposed to denote that it is now recording. Okay, so it tells you to click, or I'm in step 12 now, to design the macro by completing the following steps. And the first bulleted item is to click or navigate to the Home tab. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to start recording the steps that this macro is going to be able to perform later on. So I click on the Home tab, and it asks me to, with vendor selected, to click on bold. Got it. And to also, in the second bullet point, to click on italics. Got it. And you'll notice that it's italicizing my selection, right? So remember that I had to have vendor selected first. And then the last bulleted point, or second to last, I should say, asks me to click on the underline feature in the font group. Okay, so I've got all three of these buttons selected. Once I've applied the formatting, I can stop the recording, right? So I have to go back to my developer tab, and I have to stop the recording there. Okay, so you can see that I very quickly was able to, firstly, I had to record the macro. I had to make that first step there and then name it. And then I was able to perform my formatting, right? It recorded that formatting, and I called those three steps format underscore text, so that later on, if I have text somewhere else in this document that I want to apply the same exact formatting to, I would just click on my format text macro, right? Again, it reduces the amount of time that you take on formatting. It makes it more of an automatic task. Okay, so we're done with step number 11, and we're done with step number 12. Now, in step number 13, let's pretend that we look at vendor and we decide, I don't really like the way that this looks. I do not like all three of those formatting options. I want to take away one of those options. Well, what would you do? Would you have to re-record the macro? Well, no, you can actually just edit the macro. So macros are actually part of what we call the Visual Basic coding for applications. And Microsoft Office includes Visual Basic for applications coding for all of its software programs, right? So it's throughout, for example, Word and Excel and PowerPoint. So in this case, we're going to edit our macro formatting. So in step number 13, it tells you to edit the macro, deleting the line of VBA code, that's Visual Basic for Applications code, that reads selection dot font dot underline equals WD underline single. So essentially what that is asking us to do is to go in and delete a part of the formatting that we do not want it to include when we enact this format text macro. All right, so I'm still in the developer tab. So instead of going into record macro, now I just want to see what macros I have available to me throughout this document, right? So I click on macros and there's my format text. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to, instead of running the text, I'm going to go into edit. And edit is where I'm going to see my Visual Basic page here. And this might look a little weird to you because you haven't seen it before. But this is how, or this is what is available to us when it comes to creating short sort of commands that we can use later on. Now, make sure to read the section in your text on macro security because there are indeed some agencies, some industries that will not allow you to create macros because it can create some, and have indeed in the past created some security issues. But as long as those are mitigated, this is a great way to record formatting and to modify it when you need to and to apply it when it's ready. All right, now still on number 13 here, it tells me to edit the macro, deleting the line of VBA code that reads selection.font underline. All right, so the first one's bold, right? So we had made a selection, here's what this means. And we had applied the bold formatting. We had also applied the italic formatting. We also applied there the underline color and the underline single. So what this is asking us to do is to take the underline single line, right? We're deleting all of that code there, and we're just going to press the backspace key, and that deletes it there. Or you could also press the delete key if you're on a Mac, and that'll delete that specific line of code. Okay, then it tells us to, in the next step, to select the text USS Campus Partner and run the macro. But you'll notice that I'm still in the Visual Basic window here, right? I can't run anything. There's all I'm showing here is the macro code. To get back to my document, I'm going to click on this View Microsoft Word icon here at the top left, and it takes me back to my document, right? I could always go back into the macro and edit it, but in this case, I just wanted to show you how to get back to our document. Okay, so I'm in the second part of step 13 where it's asking me to select the text USS Campus Partner. So I'm going to take my USS Campus Partner there, and I'm going to run the macro. So what I'll do is I'll go up into my macros one more time. I'll make sure that format text is the one that is selected because that's the one that I want to run. And because I've already selected USS Campus Partner, I'll press the run button and look what it does for me, right? It applies the bold and the italicized, but because I deleted that underline code, it is not applying the underline. And you can see that if I wanted to do this for several of the titles, several of the fields that I was going to be working with in this document, it just makes things a lot easier. Okay, still on step 13 here. It says select vendor near the top of the document and clear all formatting. So I remembered that I didn't really like this underline portion here, right? So how do I clear all formatting? Well, remember that in the Home tab, in the font group, we had this really cool little eraser icon that clears all your formatting, right? Even when it's from a macro. And now that I've cleared that formatting, I would like to apply the macro, right? The newly formatted macro there. So do you remember how to do that? Right? We make sure that we have a selection. Then we go into our developer tab. We go into our macro, and making sure that you have the correct macro there, you just run the macro right from there, and it formats it in exactly the same way. Okay, so we looked at macros. Hopefully this is going to seem like an easy process for you. The Visual Basic aspect is indeed coding, right? So congratulations, you've just done a little bit of coding in this class. All right, hope that you have some fun as you are continuing with this project.